Some of the pains in managing Civil 3D standards for a company can be having a style duplicated over multiple templates if you decide to go the multiple template route, or trying to limit the number of styles that you have if your company's gone more to one template. Um, there's always that fight between, do I have a different template for every department, but then I have to create my style in every template, or do we just try to get all of the departments in the company to come together and agree upon one template, and then try not to have that template to become too big? Because of course, if that template there's too many objects, too bloated, and you're starting all your drawings from that template, then your drawings are already starting off larger than you want them to be, perhaps, then your projects end up larger, and drawings are going to be slow. Save and open times are slow. Of course, time is money. That's lost revenue at the end of the day. So you try to keep your template somewhat trimmed down to just what's necessary for the company. Of course, there's also the difficulty of if a style needs to be changed, or if you're trying to add a style. Now, everybody working on active projects, typically when you're adding a style, it's for an active project. Everyone working on those projects wants to get that style right away. You have to make sure that everybody is implementing that style, which isn't always easy for end users to do depending on their experience level in the software. So maybe somebody else has to help them do it. And then depending on what type of work you do, maybe you have a lot of requirements that are dependent upon an individual client or another party on a job. Perhaps you're doing stuff for a DOT, for example. Maybe they have their own set of requirements and the way things need to look. And that might be different than necessarily what your company standards are when you're not doing, whether it's DOT projects or whoever else you may be doing projects for. If you're not doing projects for them, maybe you have a different way that it looks. Of course, then it just gets a little bit difficult to manage the styles for both that large client as well as your individual company. So today we're going to look at how reference templates can help alleviate some of those headaches or pain points. So what are reference templates? You might have seen kind of the button, right? It's the new button 2018. It's right in there with the import and the purge styles from the Manage tab. A reference template it's kind of like some type of mix between an XREF and maybe a data reference, but it's for template settings, where you can actually have a template, and then of course all the drawings created from that template, to be actively, or somewhat actively anyways, looking at another template to get all of its styles. And so you'll actually end up having, in the destination template, reference styles, kind of like you'd have, with a data reference, like a reference surface. Well, it's actually a reference style. It's, looking at a source template to get all of its settings. It's pretty cool. And as you update or change the styles in that source template, you can push all those changes to the destination templates. All right. So, what does that mean? We have that ability. Why? What's the big advantage here? So you can have a single source for all your styles. You don't have to duplicate a style any longer across different departments. Let's say, for example, you decided to have the highway department wanted its own template, and the residential development team wanted a separate template to use. Well, now you could have one, source drawing, or source template rather, that you build all of your alignment and profile, for example. You build all of the styles for alignments and profiles in the source as well as other things, and then you reference that style into those other templates, and then continue in the other templates to build whatever it is that's unique to those departments. But you don't have to actually have the alignment and profile styles duplicated over those two templates. So in case you did want to make a change, you'd have to make the change in both prior. But now, with it being able to be referenced, there's only one source location where the style is going to sit. And then at the project level, so if somebody does point out that we need to change this style for whatever reason, and the company agrees upon the idea to change that style, now when you change the style in the source drawing, because there is like a mostly active, or like I say, sort of active looking at that, the next time they open that project, so if they have the drawing open right now, they're not going to see it. But the next time they open their drawing, they're going to see the reflection of that change that you made in the source template. And then kind of like I was saying, with if you have a DOT or some type of big client, now it's easier for you to kind of manage your portion of what you want referenced into maybe a template that you have set aside for a specific client, while also having that template well built out to sort the needs of the projects that you do for that client. Yeah, again, just kind of come back to the idea of the single source, is that you build that style in the source template, and then you duplicate that across the other templates. And this tool may seem kind of simple on the front end of things, and if you're thinking of it as being very similar to referencing styles the way that we've done it before, where it's kind of a one-time import of another drawing or another template, I'd really kind of challenge you to actually think of this as a more significant tool, in that this idea of being able to just single source it and reference it everywhere else can really change the way that you actually lay out your AutoCAD standards, I think, for the entire company, really. When you have that company standard, style, and when you're having the discussions with the different departments, and whether you're bringing in all of your power users or however you have those discussions, then you can more easily both have the different things that the different departments want, while also maintaining a company standard. I really believe that this tool, does take a large step in allowing for that to be the case. Yeah, and then again, with the client-based styles, you could have all of your, even if you're just talking about layouts with print and plot type stuff as well, you can have all that in a separate area, so that whether it's only some users that work on those projects or just only some projects that need those to be applied, you can really have that all stored almost in a separate location that maybe not everybody even has to know about. But again, you kind of get the advantage of the data being displaced in those two different locations. So let's take a look at kind of how this tool might actually play out here. Get into some Civil 3D. So for starters, I have laid out an alignment and profile drawing here, and this was kind of built off of a template that I used. Let me just kind of open up the template that I used for this one, which would be the residential site template. And on the Manage tab here, you'll see off to the right in Styles, this is where I have my new reference template, or rather reference style button. And you can see that I have one template that I'm referencing. You can reference multiple, and that'll work just fine. But you'll see that I have the company's master template referenced into this residential site. So I have this residential, so that's kind of the template and how that's set up. What that then looks like in this alignment and profile drawing, if I go to my styles, and I'll go to alignments just for an example, you'll kind of see this new little logo next to my styles here. And that logo is going to be kind of notifying me that those are indeed styles that don't reside actually or are not built in this drawing, but they are being referenced from somewhere else. Of course, that's the company master template that they're being referenced from. So I have just a few different styles there, and you can see, in this example, that it would appear that my existing alignment style isn't built quite right. I do have a centerline type in here, but it's not to the right scale, and it's, that's not the way that I want it to display. Okay, so what does it mean if I now want to change this and this is being referenced somewhere else? Well, kind of the common way to do it, and what you may be used to, and certainly the end users may be used to, would be to come in and to change the existing style by coming into the alignment properties and clicking edit style. And maybe it's just my line type scale here that I wanted to increase to, let's say, 25. Now when I click OK, I'm going to get a box that pops up, and this is, of course, going to be something that's new, and it's giving me 3 different options. I could either cancel because, maybe I didn't know what I was getting into, I didn't really want to do this, or in this drawing I can make a copy of that style that was built into our master template, but have the changes that I want to, so that will remain in this. Or then you can apply the edits for the drawing session only, which is, it's kind of a cool thing. I don't know how often you'll really want to use it at the end of the day. If you are just trying to tweak a style really quick and you don't care to save that as an actually separate style, then you can say apply the edits for this drawing session only, and when you close the drawing, that style and that appearance will go away. The next time you open it up, it'll be as if it had never happened. So for this instance, maybe I would say make a local copy with a unique name. And you'll see that it doesn't actually take me to like the object style manager any longer. What it's done is it simply copied the name of it and it's given it the dash copy. So if I were to have wanted to rename this, I'd have to go back in here and edit it, and I could, give it a different name if I wanted to. And again, I could, if I save this drawing and close, it will keep that style in this drawing to be used. Now the other way to do this would be to recognize the fact that this is a style being referenced from somewhere else, and to perhaps close this drawing, because again, I'm not going to see a live change. Open up this company master template DWT, which I already have open here, and this is where I would go into that style and edit the display here, and maybe I want to set that to 25 for the line type style, or I want to maybe look at the layer because it's getting things by layer, so maybe I would change the actual definition in our line type drawing, maybe that, or file rather, the LIN. Maybe that would be the better way to do it, but for now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the change here in the template and save that, and then reopen my alignment and profile drawing. And the preview here won't look right, but you'll see in a second once it loads everything and does its checks, it's realized that style changed. And so now you can see that in this style it is set to 25, but that's not the that's not the copy any longer. This is actually just that style. So really any drawing across the company that was referencing that style and that was set up so that it had the reference styles applied to it is going to see that change without anybody having to come in and try to import styles and then figure out what style it is that you're importing, or you import everything and then you get all these styles that you didn't want, or you import and then you purge. Like, none of that's necessary any longer. In fact, folks that are maybe new to Civil 3D don't actually really have to know how all of it works. All they know is they send something out to the power user or CAD manager, and then the next day they come in, or the next time they open, and it looks right, and it could be magic to them as far as they're concerned. So that's kind of, that's one way for that to go. I'm going to actually open the reference style dialog box here, and I want to point out something that maybe those of you who have looked at this haven't quite dug into yet, and that's going to be the manage referenced settings. So this can be a powerful way to control just how these reference styles work as well. So right on the first tab, I can actually control which styles it is that will be coming in. Now it's not going to be a template to template setting, but more of an overall setting, but I can control what comes in. I think that most often this is you're probably going to leave all of these checked, but perhaps you don't necessarily want, for example, all of the layers to come through. So you'll see here where it's showing a list of layers, and a lot of these are grayed out. And the ones that are grayed out, of course, if I highlight over this, it's going to say that it's being referenced by an object in the template. So if in that source template, the master template, I have styles that are pulling in these layers, that are utilizing these layers, then it has to bring that layer through with it in order for the style to know how to work. But there may be layers that are in that template that no style is dependent upon, and I can uncheck all of those that are black and unreferenced, and so that they don't come through. So unlike an XREF in that regard, you don't actually have to bring through every single layer. You can just tell it to bring through the ones that it needs. So again, if you have your like a company standard template well defined already, you won't be bringing through a whole lot of layers into your other templates, and it really just kind of will be able to keep your overall layer count more to a minimum for the entire company as you build things for different departments. Especially if you are getting it specialized to those different departments. Now you don't have layers for the survey department showing up in the design template, for example. And so both parties, and vice versa, the survey folks won't see the design layers. So both parties will be happier because their layer number is cut down, and they don't have all these things coming through that they didn't use anyways. Okay. So yeah, I really just kind of recommend looking into that manage reference settings as well, just to kind of give yourself a good idea of what will come through, and you can, of course, control that as well. Now, as you can see, it's referencing a bunch of layers as well. So if I come back to my master template, I'm going to close and save this drawing so that I can push a change again. If I do actually change a layer setting in my master template, for example, let's say I change the C-road line. That was the style that I had. Maybe I changed this from, or rather, let me see here. I'm looking for C-road center, excuse me. And I have a center line type on here right now. Well, if I change this to dashed, for example, maybe that's not something that you would do. I'm going to save it, but I'll change that and save this and reopen my other drawing, the alignment and profile drawing once again. It's loading everything up, and there you can see how because that is a bilayer in my setting, that it's, when I change the layer in the source template, the layer setting, it reflected in the destination drawing, if you want to call this a destination drawing, of this settings and styles from that template. So that's an important thing to understand as well. Something that you wouldn't, just make sure that you do think twice before going around and just changing a whole bunch of things, because it will affect how everything is coming through. One more example of something that might happen. So let's say I have this alignment and this profile that's already been built out, and now I want to build a second. I'm going to build a datum profile for this top one here. Move this down here, let's say 2.5 feet. And so here I have my second profile, and we'll call it the FG Nort Court datum. That's the word I was looking for. Now, I would perhaps want to assign this a different datum profile type, but maybe I don't actually have one already built. So now I can either build one, like a copy, or create new of my design style that I have referenced in here that'll be unique to this drawing, or I could actually build it, and again I'm going to do a close and save, or I could build it here in my master template and have it come through. If it's something that we think that we're going to actually, this is going to be a new workflow that we're going to want to use in other places, we want this style to show up for everybody, then we would go into our profile styles and create one called datum. We'll have that one display a little bit differently. Just for the example of today, I'll do a color override, maybe not the best company practice at the end of the day. And I'm going to do a quick save here of this template as well. Reopen my alignment profile, drawing. Once it gets everything loaded up, I'll be able to use that new style that I built in the source. And there you have it, and it looks like I missed one of the colors there that I meant to get the curves, but you get the idea that you can build styles, have it all pushed through. Again, I didn't have to come in with an import styles and re-import that style. It's always looking at the source one, and it's I think the main point that maybe you'll get out of this webinar is that it can really change the way that you have everything set up and the way that things will work for all the end users if you do decide to utilize these reference style templates. That's about all I have for examples here. Does anybody have any questions on anything that they've seen so far? Not seeing any questions come in just yet. All right, one question coming through. So somebody's asking about whether or not referencing will slow down performance with large surfaces. So you're not actually really bringing through any hard data when you're doing this. So large surfaces are going to continue to behave the way that large surfaces do. If anything, you'll maybe have less styles in that drawing. That's not really going to affect the performance of large surfaces, though. You're going to be controlling how many surface styles come in, but you're only going to have one applied to that surface, of course, at a time. So not really going to actually affect large drawings that are large because of the objects that are actually in them. Surfaces being the prime example of that. Yeah, so just some conclusions here. The single sourcing of styles is really a nice way to go. One of the things I meant to show here is that you could have something that looks like this. I'm just going to have Windows Explorer here. You could have a company master template, and then you could have your different, commercial site, highway design, residential, all these different templates that you're using that have your styles referenced in all those different locations. That's really kind of, an important thing, I think, to at least challenge, your company with, that you might want to change the way you have it set up to utilize this. And it's going to affect active, or can affect active projects, especially down the road. Once you got it implemented, it'll affect things live. If you haven't implemented it already, of course, you're going to still have to kind of go to the old practices, but maybe do set it up as a reference in case you made the change once, then you need to make a different change to it. Now you don't have to run the import 2 or 3 times. It'll work for you.